Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, we're back on the 65 Chevelle again, the Malibu SS, and we're getting really close to delivering this car back to the owner. We got the tranny problem fixed, thankfully, but now it's time to pretty up this engine even more than it is already. So the owner was never really happy with these valve covers, and so we did a lot of shopping around. And this is a late model small block, so it's got the center bolt valve covers, and there's not a lot of offerings for those. Couldn't really find anything he liked, but he kind of liked these, but they're just dull and dingy. So today, we're gonna remove those, we're gonna get them cleaned up, and we're gonna get them repolished and then back on. And then we're gonna be changing up a little bit, and these are ball milled down the centers. So we're gonna actually lay some black in there and then repolish it so it kind of matches the rest of the car. A little bit of shiny, a little bit of black. So let's jump in here and see what we got going on today. Okay, here are the valve covers we're going to be doing today. You can tell they were polished at one time, and I think they're billet specialties, so they're nice units. They're just they're not shiny enough. So we're going to go ahead and pull those off and redo them. We're also going to be removing these wire loom holders. John, the owner, doesn't like that either, and there's a nice little flag emblem underneath there that's going to look nice once it's exposed. So we're going to be pulling those off and changing up the wiring a little bit to make it a little cleaner. And also the air cleaner. John, the owner's never been happy with this air cleaner. It's like a chrome air cleaner somebody spray painted black or something. So I was talking to my buddy Dave. I think we were having a couple of beers and talking about what John was looking for, and he goes, wait a minute, I think I've got something in my stuff. So he went home, he started digging around, and sure enough, he found a ball milled air cleaner that he had, an oval, just what John was interested in. So they made a deal, and so now we're going to get this polished up. It's been sitting around a little bit, so we're going to get that nice and shiny, and then we're going to lay some black in all these ball milled grooves, and then we're going to repolish it. So this is going to look really nice. A little bit of black, a little bit of shiny, and everything should look really good. So let's get these valve covers off and get them cleaned up a little bit, and then get to polishing. Okay, so here they are. I've kind of wiped them down. I took a grime wipe and I wiped them inside and out, so there's really no oil or anything left on them. They are stained a little bit, but all in all, there's not really big, huge scratches on them. There's some up here on top, a few scratches here and there, so we're going to work on those, and we're going to see what we need to polish out and what we need to sand out. And that's the important part. Something I learned at the chrome shop when I was working there. Trying to polish stuff, you got to go in the steps, just like polishing paint or clear or anything. You've got to get it through the steps to get where you want to go. So I'm going to get some 1500 grit out and sand some of these scratches. I got some on the corners, a little bit here, and a little bit here and there where I can see some gouges right here. So we want to sand those out smooth and get this thing smoothed out really nice, and then polishing it's going to be that much easier, just like doing clear. The flatter you get it and the smoother you get it, the easier the polish is going to be. So instead of trying to bear a wheel down and try to get some of this out, we're just going to sand it out. I'm going to use some wet and dry, and I'll probably do it wet and just sit down in a chair with a bucket of water and just go ahead and sand all these up really nice. Okay, to start off, we're just going to use the sisal wheel. And now you guys have probably never seen this before, a sisal wheel, unless you do professional polishing. This will, with compound on it, it will buff out just about anything. It'll actually remove steel. So it depends on what compound you're using. At the chrome shop, we actually used to load these wheels down with contact cement and then pound them into garnet in different grits, and that's actually how we would sand the steel and the aluminum and the stainless at the shop. So, and then that would be the first step. And then you would move to another step and another step. So this sisal wheel is very versatile. It's very rigid, and it's almost like woven straw, or woven, like woven straw is what it looks like. So, and it's very, very tough. And you load it up with some compound, and you can get down and really polish really well because this thing's so stiff. You can really bear down and get in there and get the job done. Now, it all depends on what compound you're using. And I had two of these, and they were the same size, so I could polish whiter. but I used one so much doing in nooks and crannies and down in grooves and stuff like I'll be doing today in the corners of the valve cover, that I wore it down smaller than this one. So now they're two different sizes. So now I'm using this one by itself, trying to get to wore down to the same size as the other one. And I should have switched back and forth, but I didn't. And now I got two different size wheels that I need to, you know, true up a little bit. So we're gonna polish them first with this. It'd be like almost like the cut on a clear or a paint job. And then we'll switch over to a cotton wheel. Now this cotton wheel is way too small for what we need to do, but my big one, I used it so much, and this thing turns pretty fast, and I was really hard on it. It basically just fell apart on me. It blew apart. So I'm gonna have to use my little one. It's about a 6-incher right here, and I didn't even realize it till I opened the drawer, I do need to order a new one and get a nice, real big, stiff cotton wheel. But we're gonna be switching over to that. So let's start off. Let me grab the valve cover. I'm gonna load this up. I'm gonna move the camera back a little bit. I'm just gonna show you real quick how to do it. We're gonna load up some compound on here, and you have to use the right compounds. So compounds are built with kind of the stuff we used to use at the chrome shop. The compounds were just lard with different grits inside, mixed inside of it, and then poured into a tube, and then you would just, we call it greasing the wheel, and that stuff would fly everywhere, and then you just go after it, right? And I didn't do a lot of polishing. I was more on the plating side and delivery side, but the polisher showed me a lot of good tricks. So I'm gonna find the heaviest grit one I have to get the aluminum smoothed out, all my sand scratches and all the little nicks. And then we're gonna take this off, we'll put the cotton wheel on, and then we'll do our final polish with that. So let me move the camera back. We'll get this thing going, and we'll do a quick, kind of a quick tutorial on how to polish. Okay, no matter what size polisher you're using, this one's about 1.25 horses or 1 horse, maybe a little bit more, I forget. But if you've got a smaller, you're trying to use it with a bench grinder or something, the less horsepower you have means the smaller diameter wheel you're going to have to use. Otherwise, you'll just stop the thing. You'll keep stopping it. You won't get anything done. So this can hold up with this little narrow wheel and the horsepower it has. So we're going to be able to polish real easy with it. You're going to have to wear gloves. So aluminum gets hot really quick because it conducts heat so well. So we're going to go after it. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing and also keep the compound out of my eyes because it gets everywhere. I've got my polishing little apron on, and I've already done a little bit on the other valve cover, and stuff's all over me. It's all over my face and everything. So it's just a dirty job. Polishing is just a dirty job. So let me get this thing going, and you can see right here, you can see where I sanded. See that dull spot right there? So I sanded out those gouges and scratches right there, and I did a few other spots along here. So let me get this thing fired up and see if we can get this smoothed out. Okay, it's going to be noisy. This wheel's going to be blowing air at my mic, so apologize for any crappy audio that's going to be happening here. I've got just a little bit left on this one, so we're going to use it up. And what I like to do is you hold it down, so whatever doesn't go on the wheel actually lands on your part. See it right there? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on this area I sanded, because the rest of it is just more or less just making it shiny again, getting some light scratches out. So right away you can see, I don't know if you guys can see that, well, we're already getting all the sand scratches out. Now the polish is, it's greasy, so it's going to be all over everything, and it's hard to wipe off, but you guys can see right there, if I use the back of my glove, it's really coming along real good. So I'm going to get all the areas I sanded, and then we're going to just go over the whole thing with the size of wheel, and then we'll switch over to the cotton wheel. And make sure you put compound on frequently. The biggest problem is not greasing the wheel enough. So you can see it's already shining up real nice. Those streaks are just grease from the compound. So I'm just going to go around this real quick. We'll bust this out and put the cotton wheel on there. And see how that compound just flings on there? It gets hot and goes right on. It's like a big old crayon. Okay, I know it doesn't look like much with the greasy stuff on there, but it's actually looking really nice. We're going to go ahead and do the top real quick, and then we're going to switch over. Go nice and slow, but apply plenty of pressure. Be methodical, just like polishing a car. There's a hole right there, so I want to polish this way so it doesn't dig in. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Let me grab a wipe and wipe it down, and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, as you can see, it's shinier than it was when we started, but you can see my polish lines in there. You see them right here? So that's the size of wheel. It's just kind of like when you wet sand a car and then use the first step on it. You can see it's smoothed out, but you can still see all your polish lines, right? Same thing here. But we've got it smoothed out real nice. We've got it cleaned up. And it's ready for the next step. So let me switch wheels over and I'll bring you back. Okay, we got the small wheel on here. And like I said, it's way too small for what I need to be doing. You can see it's starting to fall apart a little bit. That's just the nature of the game. So by being too small, I mean, so if I was trying to polish this edge right here, you can see the nut is getting really close. So you're going to just bang the crap out of your stuff. So I'm going to be very careful. With a larger wheel, you saw with the size of the wheel, it was so big, there was no problem getting around to everything on this thing. So this wheel is kind of small for what we're doing, but that's all I got today. So this is what we're going to use. So the polish you're using really will determine what your finish comes out like. So I've got this right here, and I think this compound is a little, it's for a harder metal, but I want to use some of this old stuff. I got it starting to dry up and fall apart, so I want to use some of it up. I think this is rated for stainless, but I think it'll do a good job on here. So these were already polished once before, so we're just cleaning them up. So I'm going to go ahead and use this stuff, but you really want to try to get the right compound for what you're doing, just like polishing clear on a car. So I'm going to go ahead and use this stuff up, and let's see if we can make this thing shiny. Ah! Now let me wipe this off real quick. I did about a third of it. Just show you the difference. This stuff is really greasy, this polish, so it's really hard to get off. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can tell the difference here. Let me get a good angle on it. So you see how the aluminum is a lot more white than it was. On this end, it's a lot more blue. See that? So, and they're both wiped off. So what you're shooting for is more of that white aluminum color. And it's starting to come together really nice. You can see where I polished down to about here, and then it gets dull again. So that's what we're going to be shooting for. So I'm just going to keep at it, keep eating strings off this thing. You can tell it's falling apart pretty good. I get a pretty good pile of strings over here on the ground. So I'm just going to hit over this real quick, knock this out, and then I'll bring you back when I'm done. We'll take a look at them. Okay, here we are. Look a lot better than they did just a little while ago. I even went over the air cleaner lid just a little bit real quick. I probably should have ran a sizzle wheel over it and then polished it, but I didn't. So they're looking really good, and I like the way they look. So I'm going to send a picture to the owner and see if he wants me to inlay the black or just leave them like they are. So let me get that done, and we'll see what he says. Okay guys, John got back to me. I sent him a picture. He likes the way they look, so no black inlays on anything. It's something that can be done later if he changes his mind, but it's less work for me. So I went ahead and kind of repolished them really lightly with the cotton wheel and a little bit different compound, a little bit finer, and just kind of went over them lightly to finalize and get them extra shiny. So they're looking really good. And you may notice some blue and stuff inside of here. Now that is from me using calcium carbonate to get the compound off. Now calcium carbonate or chalk, it's the same stuff they use on ball fields to mark the lines. Very common material. You can get it anywhere. It happens to be the what is in your chalk line chalk. So this happens to be blue. If I had white, I'd use it, but all I have is blue laying around. So what we're going to do is, I've already wiped these down a little bit, but you can see, I don't know if you guys can tell, let me get the angle on that, there's kind of greasy prints right here. So what you do is, I just put some of that calcium carbonate or chalk on the rag, and I just wipe it down really good, and what that does is it pulls the greasy compound off of the metal, and otherwise you just smear it around. And if you use a degreaser, all it does is stain the aluminum or stainless or whatever you're working on. It's very hard to clean up. So all you do is you get some chalk, and now talcum powder won't work, cornstarch won't work, but plain old chalk does. So, and I can rub that around, and then I'll take a clean rag later and wipe all the blue off, since this is blue. But if you look at the rag here, you can see now what it does, the chalk does, it doesn't allow the grease to be smeared around. What it does, it pulls it off and kind of absorbs it so it stays on the rag. And then you just put some more chalk on the rag, move to a different spot, and keep wiping your stuff down. It's the best way to get the greasy polish off of here. So, and it is pretty greasy stuff. Like I told you earlier, our stuff at the chrome shop was just, for the heavy polish on the steel wheels, was just a tube, cardboard tube full of lard, and they mixed the abrasive inside of it in different grits. And then, of course, we had a huge problem with mice and rats coming in, eating that lard and running off with these big, huge tubes of polish when they got small. But, so that's the best way. So just plain old calcium carbonate. You can go to the hardware store and get white chalk line chalk, and that'll work perfectly. It's cheap, and it's a small bottle, plenty for what you're doing. So these are looking really good. Let's go ahead and get these things back on the car and see how it looks. Okay, let's get these on. I thoroughly cleaned. I took the baffles out before I started polishing. Then I thoroughly cleaned inside, because remember, we're using polishing compound that's basically grit, so you do not want that to end up washed down into the engine. So I put the baffles back in. They're all nice and tight. The new rubber gaskets are glued in. So we're ready to go here. These center bolt valve covers are really nice, especially these cast aluminum ones. They don't deflect at all, so you get them snugged down really tight. It puts even pressure over the whole sealing surface, and it does a really nice job. Unfortunately, there's not a lot as offerings as the old style, but they are pretty nice. Okay, I'm just going to go through and slowly crank these down to compress that gasket, and then I'll just go back and forth a bunch of times to slowly push that down into place. And then we'll be about done. I'm going to wipe my little dirty handprints off the whole thing. And then next step is get that wire, the spark plug wires back on, and do some wire management with that and the new air cleaner, and we are about done. Okay guys, all done. Here's the before, and here's the after. It's looking really nice. Those things polished up really, really nice. And that air cleaner is just a vast improvement over what was on there. I mean, and it all comes together with the ball mill on the valve covers and then the ball mill on the air cleaner. It's really great that Dave had that and him and John could make a deal. So you can see the valve covers came out really, really nice. The engine compartment's super clean. It does need to be detailed out a little bit more, but I'm sure John will be proud to have this hood open at any car show. This thing's looking really, really nice. Okay, before we wrap this up, let's talk about everything we used today. Size of wheel, guys, if you're gonna be polishing aluminum that's anything other than just tarnished, you're going to need a size of wheel to go over it. It's just going to speed it up and make it that much nicer. Now, I used it today when I had to sand the aluminum, sand scratches and bad spots out of it. Then I used the size of wheel with the darkest compound I had. Now, compounds, in general in the industry, the darker the color, the more it cuts. So a black would be the heaviest cut. Then you've got this brown rouge, kind of a rust color here. Then it'll move up through the colors. So you'll go black, reddish brown, into a green, and then into a blue, oranges, stuff like that. So generally the darker the color, the more it cuts. The lighter the color, the finer finish you're going to get. So I used black, I ran out, then I switched over to this brown, and then I went to a blue to do the final finish on it. So I used the black with the size of wheel. And I went on Amazon to get the links to put in the description here, and I found some size of wheels on Amazon, and also Eastwood carries them as well. So I needed one with a 3/4 inch arbor, and I've got a pretty high horsepower buffer there. If you've got a half horsepower, you're probably going to have to stick with a 6-inch wheel with probably whatever your 1/2-inch shaft or whatever your buffer is. But get a size of wheel. You're going to need it. They were only $10 for a 10-inch wheel. I bought 2 of them to stack them side by side. So that's super cheap. It's going to speed up your polishing and make it look 10 times better and so much faster. And then the cotton wheel, while it was on there, I ordered a new cotton wheel because this little baby thing ain't going to do anything on that big polisher. In fact, I think I lost about 1 inch in diameter just using it today. So get good compound, go through the grits, get yourself a size of wheel, and calcium carbonate. Chalk, get chalk and it'll clean up and it'll get all that, that greasiness off your polish job. So get the stuff you need, it'll speed up your job. Wear dirty clothes, get a face mask, dust mask. I am covered in compound right now. I actually have to go wash my face so I can do the ending shot on this video. Okay guys, I washed all the compound off my face so I'm presentable. That about wraps it up for today's job. Got the valve covers polished up, looking really nice. Got the air cleaner polished, repolished, and it looks super good on there. I'm really happy, and I'm sure John's going to just love it the way it looks. But you guys can do this even if you have bare aluminum that has never been polished. Get your sandpaper out, sand it down really good, smooth it out just like a paint job, and then just start going through the steps. You can polish it up just like the professionals do. Thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and mash that bell icon so you get notifications every time I release a new video. We'll see you on the next one.